Right now, we're marking 60 years since one of the most iconic moments of the civil rights movement, Bloody Sunday. Hear how those who were close to the late Congressman John Lewis will reflect on the occasion. Also, some scammers are taking to the express lane, targeting you for unpaid accounts. Find out what's behind the deception. And we're going to examine why a small slice of North Georgia is now seeing an unusual high number of cases in thyroid cancer. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines to look at why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite experts in to give us their take on the stories that we share, and we try to have a little fun as well. Let's start this work week with 11Alive Weather Impact Alert. Yes, this week we'll be looking at the possibility for some strong as a 3 thunderstorms moving into our forecast area. That will be on Wednesday. Actually Wednesday morning. We're talking about the wee hours of the morning right now. That's the way it's timing out. Got a front that's going to come in. We'll be bringing some thunderstorms. Some of those will stay strong as they move across the border out of Alabama into our state. Again, right now that timing looks to be after midnight going into about 4 a.m. Heavy rain along with strong winds are possible with some of these thunderstorms. What I need you to do right now is to watch the forecast closely. As we get a little bit closer to where those storms begin to move in, we'll be able to give you the timing and also the potential for any storms that happen to be severe. So keep it locked right here for the very latest. Again, 11Alive Weather Impact Alert for Wednesday of this week. At least today we'll have the sunshine around. All right, we're also following multiple shootings from overnight, leaving 4 people shot in unrelated incidences. This first one happened in the parking lot of Cascade Family Skating Ring on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. 1 man and 1 woman was shot, and the suspect is in custody. Another shooting 10 miles away on Sullivan Road, leaving 1 man dead and another recovering at Grady Hospital. At this point, police are saying it appears to have been started by a drug deal that escalated into violence. All right, jury selection is expected to begin in a 1990 cold case rape and double homicide. Kenneth Perry is accused of shooting Pamela and Joseph Sumter. They were killed back in 1990 at an apartment complex near Stone Mountain. The case has been cold for 30 years. That's until the DNA from a rape kit matched DNA from a national database. Perry was arrested and then indicted last June. Appalachia High School football coach Mike Hancock is stepping down to focus on his mental health. He said he was deeply impacted by the shooting that took place at the school, killing 2 students and 2 teachers. One of the teachers was killed. It was his division coordinator, Richard Aspinwall. In a post on X, he said that he's struggling with PTSD and depression and intends to seek counseling to help him out.
We're marching today to dramatize to the nation, dramatize to the world that hundreds and thousands of Negro citizens of Alabama, but particularly here in the Black Belt area, denied the right to vote.
That was John Lewis speaking out ahead of the March on Civil Rights that was mirrored in sorrow. This was on March 7th, back in 1965, that Lewis was a part of a group marching from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, asking for the right to vote. More than 50 marchers, including Lewis, was hospitalized that day. This week marks the 60th year of Bloody Sunday, and its impact is still being felt today. Joining us now with more perspective is Michael Collins. He's the chair of the John and Lillian Miles Lewis Foundation and one who served as chief of staff and floor assistant to Congressman Lewis for almost 20 years. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chesley.
All right, looking good too, man. Let's talk about this real quick. Give me your take on John Lewis and those events. How much of an effect did that event have on his life of dedicated to service and the movement?
Oh, it was everything, Chesley. I mean, his life was committed to that area, the Black Belt, the right to vote. He wanted to demonstrate the importance of the right to vote, and he wanted everybody to show up and be represented, and that was what he did and fought for his whole entire life. And Selma was just one of the stories of that. It was really the impetus for the voting rights movement, and Bloody Sunday was that most impactful time where you mentioned Congressman Lewis led a group of marchers across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with Hosea Williams to demonstrate the right to vote. And Dr. King later joined him and continued that march later on in the month of March. And so that history was so impactful for our lives and for American history. And so that's why this is so important.
Mike, you spent a lot of time with him. How much did he reflect on that day?
Every day. Congressman Lewis spent his whole entire life telling the story and retelling the story. He traced back the steps of the voting rights movement. He took colleagues from Washington, D.C. and presidents back to Selma to remember what actually happened. Congressman Lewis, from the time he was beaten, returned every year except for 1 year when he missed going back to honor that moment because he had to attend Mother Teresa's funeral with Senator Clinton. And so it was just so important for him to continue to tell the story. He wanted people young and people not so young to remember, never to forget.
Yeah, he and so many others have suffered, for civil rights. How much would you say has civil rights moved forward or shifted backwards since that day?
We moved forward. We have a great distance to go, so much work to do, so much ahead. But Congressman Lewis would want us to remember what we fought for, what we've done, the accomplishments we made. But again, knowing that there's so much more work to do, so much more work ahead.
Yeah. Talk to me about the foundation, what you guys have planned this week to honor that march.
Yeah, Chesley, we are proud to work in partnership with the City of Selma and Historic Tabernacle Baptist Church Foundation and National Park Service, where we're replacing a marker on the bridge, again, to remember the story of Selma, to tell and dramatize exactly what happened so that people who visit the Emmett Pettus Bridge and visit Selma this weekend and many days and years to come will know the story of what it took for voting rights so that they don't take it in vain.
You mentioned that putting a marker out there. Is that going to be this week, you said? When are you guys going to actually do it?
Yes, so we're laying the marker this week. Mm-hmm. The actual marker will be laid on Wednesday the 5th. And so we will place it at the foot of the bridge. And again, in culmination with the anniversary and celebration this coming weekend of the 60th anniversary.
Sounds good. Michael Collins, the chair of the John and Lillian Miles Lewis Foundation. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
Take care.
All right, take care now. All right, folks. Yep, we talked about our red alert. So we got some storms coming our way this week. You need to be aware. We're going to continue to update you on that as well. We got much more for you coming up right after this. Welcome back to the show. After Friday's public clash between President Donald Trump and Ukraine President Zelensky, U.S. officials say the road to a peace deal to end the war in Russia is deeply uncertain. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who's been covering politics for years now. And Alice, this Friday, if you saw it, I know you saw it, but those of you out here who saw that, it seemed to be a bit bizarre, something that we're not used to seeing happen inside the White House. Give us your take on what exactly went down.
Chesley, it was. Usually if you're going to have that kind of heated exchange, it would happen behind closed doors. The fact that it happened in the Oval Office in front of the cameras is very notable. People who've been covering D.C. a lot longer than I have all been saying that they've really never seen anything like this. And, the breakdown happened when Ukrainian President Zelensky sort of interrupted Vice President J.D. Vance when he was talking about trying to pursue peace, that Russia wanted to pursue peace, and he was challenging him. Zelensky was challenging Vance over what that diplomacy should look like. He has time and time again pressed for security guarantees to protect his country, to protect Ukraine, should Russia come back and just invade again if there is a peace deal reached. And that's really when things kind of turned on a dime. And certainly Vice President Vance, President Trump felt that President Zelensky was being disrespectful in the way that he was addressing them, and kind of the way that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was also in the room, put it, is that he was trying to Ukraine-splain on all of these issues. Secretary Rubio specifically has said that there has to be a peace before there can be an effort to secure the peace, and that he says the Trump administration has been trying to get Russia to the table, and that nothing should be done to disrupt that, to get these negotiations at least going. And he and other Trump administration officials are of course putting the blame on Zelensky for, they say, derailing that, though of course supporters of Ukraine feel like he was kind of set up, that he was put on the spot to have this go awry. So it's a mess. It's a mess.
It is a big mess, Alice. This was not only about peace, but also about a mineral deal. Is that a done deal now?
So President Zelensky has said that he's still open to signing that deal, and this is something that would allow Ukrainians rare earths and other critical minerals that are used for technology, for weapons, all kinds of things, for revenue from that to be shared with the U.S., kind of a mechanism for paying back some of the support, military support that the U.S. has sent to Ukraine, though President Zelensky kind of objects to that framing as well, because that wasn't the original agreement, but also in some ways kind of its own form of security guarantee, because you would have these economic ties that maybe would give the U.S. government an incentive beyond just, having an interest in its ally to want to protect Ukraine. So President Zelensky has said he's still open to doing that, and that he believes he can get this relationship between the U.S. and Ukraine back on track, though that's an open question at this point.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So President Zelensky did get a boost when he left Washington. He met with some European leaders. What are we hearing about those meetings over the weekend?
Yeah, so he really was working to shore up European alliances, and we heard from European leaders that they announced this multi-billion-dollar aid package for Ukraine, as well as the British Prime Minister saying that the UK, France, and other countries would work with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting and then report back to the U.S. and again, try to keep the U.S. involved in this process. Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, specifically said he does not accept the idea that the U.S. is an unreliable ally. And clearly, even as he was saying that the European countries are going to take the lead, he was trying to keep the U.S. along as at least a backstop to prevent future violence.
Yep. Okay. So when it's all said and done, can Ukraine carry on without U.S. support, you think?
It's tough to see. Certainly European allies have been a huge source of support for Ukraine, but as a single nation, of course, the U.S. has done the most. And, President Trump does have a relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin that has gotten to the point of being able to potentially have these negotiations. So European leaders are saying that's a critical component. And European leaders, again, are saying that the U.S. needs to be involved at least as a backstop, even if Europe is now promising to step up and be the one that takes the lead.
Gotcha. All right, Alice Barr in Washington, D.C., thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks.
All right, let's take a look at our 7-day outlook, folks. And we've been talking about this 11Alive weather impact alert that's going to be taking place on Wednesday morning. That's where you see that red right there. That's Wednesday morning, 60% chance that we'll see some scattered showers and thunderstorms move into the forecast area. We're watching this closely because some of those thunderstorms could be on the strong severe side, meaning they could pack some gusty winds. Some hefty winds could be associated with it. Certainly some heavy rain associated with that as well. Our temperatures before then will be in the 60s. We'll be in the 60s that day as well. But behind that front, we'll notice those temperatures cooling down once again. We'll be looking at temperatures down into the 50s by Thursday. By Friday, we'll be looking at temperatures in the 60s once again as we head into the upcoming weekend. But we'll also be looking at the chance for more rain pushing in for Sunday. So on the latter half of the weekend, we could be seeing more rain move in, but at least our temperatures will be close to where they should be for this time of year. All right, today kicks off National Consumer Protection Week, and too many of us have been falling victim to scams. Yep, some new numbers out today from Bankrate that shows a third of Americans have been hit with some sort of financial fraud or a scam in the past year, and more than a third of those people have lost money because of it. Baby boomers and Gen Xers are most likely to have ever experienced a financial scam or fraud, but Gen Zers and millennials are more likely to lose money. One source of financial scams here in Georgia is simply a text to your phone saying you're late on catching up on unpaid tolls. Here to help us to avoid being nailed is John Clay, Vice President of Threat Intelligence, with more on these growing toll scams in Georgia. John, right off the bat, give us your take on what these scams are all about, especially with the tolls.
Yeah, the scammers this year really have taken to the toll scam a lot. We saw at Trend Micro, we saw a 900% increase in toll scams this year alone. And so what they're trying to do is prey upon these people that use toll roads, and they'll send a text message, an iMessage. They even might send an email message saying you have unpaid fines or unpaid tolls, and if you don't pay that, you'll get a hefty fine. They want you to click on a link. The link will take you typically to a malicious website where they will gather information about you. They may gather your credit card information, all that kind of stuff, and then it will basically scam you out of your money, out of your information, and so forth.
Why tolls? Why are they going after the tolls? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, they take advantage of any different types of topics. You know, when the Olympics are around, it was Olympics. When the Super Bowl was around, it was Super Bowl. You know, when there's no big event going on, they will take advantage of other things that people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And they're looking for people to be distracted. They try to get you concerned, and there's urgent messaging in the message itself, trying to get you off key so that you'll pay the toll.
John, in our state, or at least here in the metro area, Atlanta metro area, it's really the express lanes that we see. We don't see a whole lot of tolls. You may dip into that lane, and I know if you go through other states, they'll have a sign that says if you don't have a pass, we'll just mail it to you, that kind of thing. So if you happen to dip into that, I mean, how do you know whether or not it's legit or not?
Yeah, that's the hardest thing today, because technology's got to the point where the scammers can craft, you know, the website they send you to will be exactly looking like the legitimate website you would normally go and pay tolls at or buy merchandise or whatever it might be, right? The messages, they use generative AI to craft the messages now, so they don't have bad grammar, don't have misspellings, etc. So it is difficult to identify. But the big thing you want to look at doing is, if you do use tolls, bookmark the toll website, so peachpass.com. You would want to bookmark that and only go to that. Don't go to it via a text message or an email message that you receive.
Is it too late for somebody who feels like they've already been targeted? Like, is it? I mean, if you've already paid it, I guess you can't get your money back.
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, first and foremost, call your financial institution and maybe stop your credit cards going at that point. And consumers do have some protection when they get scammed. So if it's via a credit card, you contact your credit card agency and let them know that you got scammed, and so they can sometimes get that money back. I would also recommend contacting law enforcement because we need to arrest these people and get them off the streets. And so that can happen as well.
John, we'll certainly have you back on the show. Are there any other scams quickly that we need to be concerned about that you know of?
Well, certainly tax scams will be coming up very quickly. They'll start sending these messages that say, hey, you need to pay your taxes, or here's some information about your taxes. Click on this link. So that's going to be a big one. And then, you know, obviously NBA finals or any of the sports activities, they prey upon any kind of, incident that's going on as well.
Okay. All right. John Clay, appreciate you being on, man. And we're going to have you back because we really need to know about these scams.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a safe day.
All right. Do the same, my friend. Thanks a lot. Don't go anywhere, folks. Plenty more stories to come after the break. You're watching The Take right here on 11Alive Plus. All right, welcome back to the show. Now to a story that has many of our viewers talking about it. It's a cancer mystery up in the North Georgia mountains. Here to talk more about it is 11Alive investigative reporter Savannah Levin. She joins us with her take on what's going on up there. Savannah, first of all, can you recap this story for us?
Yeah, Chesley, I think that's a good place to start. So we found thyroid cancer rates in several Northeast Georgia counties are higher than anywhere else in the state. And it's not just an outlier here in Georgia. The thyroid cancer rates there are about double the national average or more. And it's happening in these 6 neighboring counties you're seeing on your screen: Union, Lumpkin, Hall, White, Habersham, and Raven. Thyroid cancer rates there have been unusually high over the last 10 years or so, Chesley, so really concerning.
Wow, you broke this story back in November. What has the response been since then?
I mean, it's huge. I was just told a few minutes ago that it's one of the top stories on our website right now. It's really striking a chord. We reported this data, so of course, Chesley, we knew theoretically thyroid cancer rates were high there, but the number of thyroid cancer patients from that area who have reached out to us after that initial story aired, it's really put this issue into clear focus for us. So as of this moment, I just checked, more than 70 people from those 6 counties who have thyroid cancer have reached out to us, agreeing to share information about their diagnosis, where they live, places they frequented. That's what you're seeing on that map right there. Now, I've talked to each of them, and while you are seeing points on a map there, let's remember every single one of those dots reflects a real person's story. So let that sink in. Here are just a couple that we talked to recently.
So I kind of took a second to process it, but I told my close friends there what was going on.
They just said, well, it has to be environmental. I started thinking, what have I eaten? What am I breathing? What have I done to myself? Through people like you, maybe somebody can find a reason that we're getting it.
All right, so Savannah, the big question is something in the environment up there, something in the water? I mean, what's going on up there to cause this?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we're pushing state leaders for answers on that. Now, we know the Department of Public Health and the Department of Natural Resources did consult on the data that we found, but they decided not to launch a study, Chesley.
Why did they decide not to launch the study?
Yeah, good question as well. Well, they said ionizing radiation is the only known environmental source of thyroid cancer, and they say since there's no known source of that in this area, they came to the conclusion that a study isn't needed.
Ah, okay. All right. So what are the leaders doing now to take some action to it?
Yeah, so there are some state leaders taking action to that point. I reached out to every single state senator and representative of these 6 impacted counties to make them aware of this data and ask what, if anything, they plan to do. And just like, you know, as you and I know, things don't always move quickly at the state capitol, but in this case, I got very prompt responses from nearly all of them. Senators Hatchett and Senator Gooch, Representative Hopkins, Dubnik, Donahue, and Wade, all expressing real concern over this data, all agreeing to speak with us about it.
You know, it's something that needs to be looked at and now and soon. We don't want to turn a blind eye to it or pretend like it's not happening. We can't do that. I want to know the cause.
I think we all want to know the cause. What's the plan going forward now?
So without the help of DPH and DNR, like I said, the push for research is going to look different, but there are plans in motion, so that's the good news. We are going to break that all down for you tonight in an all-new report that you can watch on 11Alive News at 6 and right here in the 11Alive Plus app. So please make sure you tune in for that. We've got a lot more good information for you.
And once again, Savannah, how big is this area that we're experiencing this in?
6 counties, and they're all neighboring counties, Chesley, which is obviously strange when you're seeing like these 6 counties all have the highest rates in the state and some of the highest rates in the country, and they're all neighboring. You know, the obvious question is, what's going on up there?
Yeah. Well, you know you're on it, and we know you get down to the bottom of it. Please do help those folks up there.
Yeah, we'll definitely try. Thank you, Chesley.
Thanks a lot, Savannah. Really appreciate that report. All right. If you have a tip for our 11Alive News investigative reporters, reach out. You can call Savannah and the rest of our investigative team at 404-873-9111. Again, that's 404-873-9111. Or email us at investigates@11alive.com. Man, let's get down to the bottom of it. My final take when we come back. You're watching The Take on 11Alive Plus. All right, before we go today, let me give you my final take. You know, everybody wants a long life. Well, we just saw a new study from Oxford University that confirms that long life has more to do with lifestyle than family genes. Yeah, my grandmother lived to 90, my father. It has more to do with lifestyle, they say. Yeah, they say if you do these 4 things, you'll live much longer. Number 1, no smoking. Well, we all know smoking is bad for us, but the study shows that has the most influence on age. Number 2, get some sleep. Of course, they recommend 7 to 9 hours. And get moving. Those that stay active tend to live much longer. And eat for long life. Cut down significantly on red meat consumption. So I'm about halfway there. The sleep part and the active part is where I struggle. So I may be checking out. But hopefully this show will last forever. Not today, though. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you. I'll leave you with this moment of Zen.